Today is July the 3rd. I have been back from our writing retreat, the writing retreat that Taylor and I took together since June 30th, and the work has not stopped. I got done everything that I wanted to get done during the writing retreat, but um, getting that work done just birthed new work for me to do. So the work never stops. But today I just wanted to talk to you guys about how Taylor and I plan this writing retreat, how you can plan a writing retreat, and some things that we're taking with us when we plan the next. So this was our third writing retreat. We started going on these in 2023. First year we did it in Indianapolis because we all lived there at the time. Second year we did it in Charleston, South Carolina. And this year we did it in Omaha, Nebraska, because I live in Nebraska and I did not have um, really the money for a flight, like the disposable income. I just didn't have it, not with the savings goal that I wanted to meet for the summer, and because all of the plane crashes are freaking me out. They're freaking me out. Next year, I think we're planning to go to Georgia. I can say that each year the retreat is better than the previous year. So we always improve upon the retreats and the sort of system that we have for organizing them. However, there are just always improvements to be made, and this year is absolutely no exception. So I think the first step in planning a writing retreat is to get the nitty gritty detailed stuff out of the way as soon as possible. Confirm the details as soon as you can. So what does that mean? That means, first of all, deciding where you're going to go. Are you going to go somewhere close to you that you could drive to or take the bus to if that's your jam? Are you going to go somewhere farther that you might have to take the train to or the bus or a plane? Do you need to get a rental car? Transportation is going to be really important, but also your accommodations, your lodging. Where are you going to be staying? If you plan to be more active in the city that you're in, then something like a hostel might work well for you. So, a place where you can literally just sleep, shower, and store your luggage. However, if you want to have more of a sort of community feel and you want to make sure that you and your group are always doing things together, some sort of um, accommodation where you'd be able to have the entire like an entire home to yourself or an apartment to yourselves might work better. So like a Verbo or an Airbnb situation. And then depending on, maybe you're gonna do like something in the middle, something between those two, maybe a hotel would work best. Or you might just be able to find a hotel room with a bigger suite that's going to be cheaper than an Airbnb, that's going to have sort of less cleaning duties than an Airbnb, um, that has like several beds or several rooms in it that might work for you and your group. And so your transportation and accommodations are really the things that you want to confirm as soon as possible. The day-to-day stuff, or like the itinerary, the schedule, that can always change based on new events that are happening, things that get canceled, new places that you find. But your travel and your accommodations are really necessary, and they're going to be way less flexible. Also, planning ahead will really ensure that you don't go over budget on these things. While Taylor and I were looking for accommodations, we were looking for a place that had beds for the three of us. The first year we found a place that had beds for the three of us. The second year we thought that there were three beds. The listing showed three beds, but it was actually two beds and a sofa bed. So that was not very fun for me because I slept on the sofa bed. So we were really focused on getting accommodations with at least three beds, not necessarily three bedrooms, but three beds. And then, of course, the normal things that an Airbnb or a Verbo rental would have. So things like Wi-Fi, essentials like towels, um, and we really liked having a sort of outdoor area where we could sit. We wanted the kitchen to be stocked just with utensils, pots, pans, things like that, because we typically have a like sort of sit down dinner together at our rental. The next thing I would say that you need to do is to create flexible but attainable goals. It's important that the goals are attainable so that you feel like your writing retreat was a success. Even if you don't get everything done, you need to make sure that it's something doable. So if you're planning to write an entire novel in a 5 day retreat, that might be a little silly. That is a little silly. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's just not an attainable goal. However, you might decide that you want to plot out an entire novel during the 5-day retreat and maybe write the first couple of chapters. That's something that you can absolutely do. But you want to make sure that you are flexible, because chances are this is your only downtime, right, that you're going to have. You're away from whatever is sort of requiring your attention at home. You're away from your job, your kids, your pets. So this is just space and opportunity for you to lounge and to do nothing. And so you want to take advantage of that as well. And I would say build in some rest time during your retreat. If you are in a new place, there might be new things that you see, places you want to go and visit. Some of these things might take longer than you thought or longer than you planned in your itinerary. So having flexible goals is really important. Determine the itinerary and schedule. And this will take research on your part. What coffee shops are around? What writing spots are around? Co-working spaces. Do you want to use these spaces? If so, is there some sort of daily fee that you need to pay, or can you just sort of walk in, sit down, and start working? What bookstores are around that you want to go visit? If you want to buy books, or if you just want some inspiration from bookstores around you, how far are they from your rental? How far are they from the places where you're planning to be working at? And how much time would it take you to go to these bookstores, browse, look around, and then get back to your rental? How are you going to handle meals? Are you going to eat out for every meal? Are you going to plan to stay in for some meals? If so, what does the grocery list look like? What does the grocery budget look like? And what will happen to that food at the end of the retreat? Do you want to schedule in just some bonding time for you to just sort of hang out with the people that you're on the retreat with? Taylor and I planned an entire day for us to essentially not leave the Airbnb. We stayed there all day. We cooked our own meals that day. We had a sort of a marathon where we watched a bunch of movies. We did a workshop of our writing work. And that day was probably my favorite day of the entire retreat. And so I think building in some bonding time and some time for you guys to just hang out is really important as well. And I'll say that you definitely want to try to get your itinerary as close to accurate as possible, but it is necessary that you be flexible. And so I just think that you need backup plans. I think that we needed backup plans this year, and we just didn't have enough. It was mostly on me to figure out places to go and things to do because I live in Nebraska, but I don't live in Omaha, so I didn't know a lot about what was happening in Omaha. And so I wish I would have just done a bit more research about what was happening out there, about things that we could have seen, things that we could have done, places that we could have visited. And so I would just say, make a backup plan for that backup plan, and then make a backup plan for your backup plan's backup plan. Right. Is that radical to say that you need to write on a writing retreat? It's important to make sure that you are getting your writing done. That's the point of the entire retreat. That's the point of taking the time off. That's the point of traveling. That's the point of spending all this money on the rental. It's for you to write. And if you're not getting that done, then I don't know what you're doing. I mention this because it can just be easy to sort of slip into this mindset of like, I'm here with friends, I'm here with people that I love, people whose time I enjoy, and we're in this really beautiful space. And it can be easy to just sort of get used to that and to forget that you are actually there to work. So just make sure that you're getting the work done, and figure out some sort of way to break up your time. Because if you just have these long stretches of time where you're like, okay, I get up at 8 and then I'm going to go to bed at 10 and I can do my writing anywhere in there, that just gives you an excuse to procrastinate. So what I would tend to do is I would tend to dedicate the first hour or so of my day, which I would spend in the room, in my own room, to writing. And then I would get up, meet with the girls in the living room. We would decide what we were going to do for that day. And then we would maybe go to a coffee shop, and then I dedicate some time there. I tend to do like a sort of Pomodoro method where I work for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I take like a 10-minute break, and I keep doing that. But it's just important to make sure that you are really leaving time for yourself to write. This one might be the most important. It is imperative that you make sure that everyone is on the same page. There were times in our last 2 retreats where Taylor felt like she wasn't getting done what she wanted to get done because Courtney and I were like watching music videos or whatever. And that wasn't a sentiment that she expressed to us until later. And we could have fixed it in the moment by cutting the televisions off. but we didn't because we didn't know it was an issue. And then sort of similarly, there are times where, you know, just two of us wanted to do something and the third person didn't, or like one of us would want to do something and then one person would be indifferent, and then one person really would not want to do that thing. And so it's just important that you're all on the same page about what you're doing, your goals for the retreat, and just essentially all of the moves that you'll be making in this new city where none of you have roots, if that's the kind of retreat that you're going on. And then finally, I think you should just make it a goal to make the next retreat better than the last retreat. So how are we going to make this next retreat better? First, we're going to make sure that we're researching the places that we're going. We're going to make sure that we have our transportation and accommodations settled long beforehand. This time, we didn't get everything settled until during the retreat, honestly, because our third person came the second day of the retreat. So we're really going to make sure that we nail that stuff down. We want to spend a little bit more time looking for a rental, one that's really going to fit our needs. We have some other requirements for the rental this time around. And we also want to make sure that we go to a city with a beach, because we went to Charleston last year. It has a beach. We really enjoyed it there. And Omaha does not have a beach, even though there are lakes nearby, and there are like public pools nearby, stuff like that. But we wanted a beach specifically, so we'll make sure that we take care of that the next time also. Overall, I think our writing retreat was pretty good. And it helped me stay on track with my deadline that I created for myself for my revision challenge. I'll put that video up there if you haven't seen it. And it's essentially a 75-day revision challenge. And so going on this retreat really helped me to figure out what global revisions I need to make to my novel at this point. I ended up cutting about 50 to 60 pages from it, and I'm going to rewrite those pages probably to be 20 to 30 pages instead of 50 to 60, in addition to some other cuts that I'm making, some other things that I'm moving around. So it was really helpful for me. And I know Taylor did a lot of reading during the retreat, and our third person, her goal was more to do some revising, and she ended up doing that, and I think she ended up getting one piece submitted. I think her goal was 4, but I think if you know her, 1 is good. 1 was good for her. Yeah. So I hope that our next writing retreat is going to be even better than this one, and I hope that your writing retreat goes really, really well. Good luck.